What's going on, ladies and gents? This is T. Lawrence, and this is probably the most manliest intro of any movie. Commando. A true classic with over-the-top action and cheesy one-liners, just like all the other 80s action movies. But today, we will actually play a flash game with the same name. In fact, if you're around the golden years of Miniclip, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The one free-to-play side-scrolling shooter game that consistently topped the charts on its homepage. The game that grew so difficult as you progressed that most players simply couldn't pass the regular difficulty. So damn difficult that my middle school self had no choice but to watch how the real pros did it on Let's Plays from YouTube. Still, despite all the cracked up difficulties, the game defined the childhoods of many people back in the late 2000s, including my own. Of course, I am referring to the one and only Commando 2. Commando 2 is a side-scroll shooter game, developed by Macrojoy and published by Miniclip. Released on June 13, 2008, Commando 2 would quickly rise through the charts, not only becoming the most played Flash game on Miniclip, but also amongst the most played within the entire Flash community, with the likes of Age of War and Bloons Tower Defense. An interesting tidbit about Macrojoy is that it's a Chinese studio, who's responsible for many other iconic 2D Flash games from Miniclip, like the rest of the Commando series, Deep Sea Patrol, Canyon Shooter, and more. Beyond that, there's not much we know about the studio, other than the fact that they closed down in October 2018, unfortunately. Now, from the first impressions of Commando 2, one can tell that it's clearly inspired by Metal Slug, utilizing the same pixelated graphics and even the same sound effects. But of course, the difference being the setting, taking place in the Asian theater of World War II, and as a one-man army commando, you fight the Axis troops throughout the countryside and cities of China, the jungles of Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands. Well, loosely that is. Because let me tell you, even though it's a World War II setting, this game takes a lot of creative liberties, as evident by the later missions, especially some of the weapons and bosses, whose historical accuracy is questionable. But hey, if I cared about historical accuracy, I'd go watch a documentary on the History Channel, so I digress. Finally, some of you may be wondering, if this is Commando 2, then where's Commando 1? In fact, why are we even skipping the first one? Yeah, about that. Unlike its sequel, the first Commando has a more fixed and rigid aim mechanic as opposed to the more fluid mouse aim of its sequel, and not nearly as much of a weapon selection. In fact, you can't even choose your weapons, instead relying on drop-offs. Plus, the gameplay can be quite repetitive, thus susceptible to boredom. I guess to put it bluntly, the first Commando game is kinda forgettable. Not that it's a bad game inherently, but rather its sequel is so good that you're not really missing out on much by skipping it. But if you want to experience the first game before the second, you are free to do so as well. But today, we are diving straight into Commando 2. Therefore, Colonel John Matrix, the floor is yours.
Vielen Dank, Herr Marshal. You heard the man, everyone. It is time for us to crush the Axis, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of the Loremaster fans.
As we open up the game, we're greeted with this kick-ass home screen. One with a fine-looking gal on the right side, and one chiseled Chad on the left side. In fact, this guy kinda reminds me of a certain someone. The controls are pretty straightforward, with the WASD keys for movement and the Q and E keys for switching weapons, though you can use the mouse scroller for that as well. In fact, the mouse scroller will become really useful later on. You'll see. And of course, the mouse itself is for aiming and shooting weapons. Now, it is possible to play this game on your laptop and aim and shoot with your touchpad, but it is extremely inconvenient, so I advise against it. I tried it when I was younger and it was quite the hassle. Now, who do we choose between the mighty fine gal or the buff and chiseled Chad? Well, we're gonna go for the best girl, of course. The Chad. And this time, we're gonna call him Phoenix. Because he legit looks like Phoenix Wright. I don't know, am I the only one? Next, you can select one of 12 missions. But since we're just getting started, we begin at mission 1. 2. You can select your weapons of choice, all divided into classes from A to I. However, most of the weapons are unavailable and must be unlocked as you progress through the various missions. Therefore, we will select the submachine gun, the bow and arrow, the grenade launcher, and the rocket launcher. I would like to pick more, but unfortunately, the first 2 slots are locked with a default knife and pistol, which are kinda useless. Anyways, with that, let's go run and gun and kick some Axis asses. Get it? Huh? After being dropped off by our pilot, we begin in what appears to be a small farm with some livestock. But we're not here to farm, so let's lock and load and test out these bad boys. Let's start off with a knife to prove that Phoenix can still fight without bullets. And lo and behold, the Imperial Japanese soldiers are sleeping on the job. Hey buddy, you're not supposed to sleep on the job. Finally, we get detected, so we switch to the default pistol and dispose the rest of the guards. Now we switch to the submachine gun, which fires faster and packs a bigger punch. But unlike the pistol, it has limited ammo, so be mindful of its usage and make sure you pick up ammo crates like here to replenish ammo, which you can find by destroying vehicles in crates like these. We'll also drop other items like food, which replenish your health. Trust me, you will need a lot of food as you go. Of course, another soldier lazing around while on duty. Woo, fruit bowl. Yeah! As we take a plunge, we take out more soldiers until finally, another ammo crate. Make sure to grab it before it fades. After smashing through a gate, we're faced with a hostile plane dropping bombs on us. You do not want to get hit by them, as they really pack a punch. Still, our submachine gun makes quick work of the plane. We then encounter more soldiers led by a cavalry officer, who will try to charge at you, so make sure you stay on the ledge above. Now we switch to the bow and arrow, which fires explosive arrows, kinda like the one from Rambo 2. Also, the horse is okay, so don't worry. After smashing through more trucks and crates, we reach the entrance of a cave, where a tank sits above a pillbox. I wonder how the hell it even got there. Still, the explosive arrows make quick work. As we enter the cave, we encounter even more soldiers, as well as bats. Oh no, the memories! Fortunately, the explosions scare away the bats, and we find another ammo crate. Now, we switch to the grenade launcher, which is arguably the best beginner weapon, as it packs a great punch, has decent accuracy, and great fire rate. And we're really gonna need this, as we're suddenly met with a convoy of trucks, charging straight at us. Next, we encounter another new enemy, who's armed with a pistol and starts kicking barrels down the hill. Judging from his appearance, he kinda looks like a gangster of some sort, rather than an actual soldier. Okay, after looking up the wiki, these guys are the Gestapo/traitors, which makes me guess they're some kind of collaborators. Well, if you're aware of the actual history of China during World War II, you know it's pretty grim, so let's not dwell too deep on it. We continue to climb up the hill, fight through more waves of soldiers, traitors, and barrels, until finally reaching this wooden hut filled with explosives. After destroying it, we're greeted with another tank. As we climb up another hill, a bunch of explosive carts roll down, which we can either shoot or just jump over. I prefer to shoot, in the off chance they might drop ammo or food. After destroying another wooden hut, we finally encounter our first mini-boss, a Swordmaster. After having a sig, the Swordmaster unsheathes his katana and engages in our duel, firing off waves of energy bolts. Still, just like the tanks, we make easy work of him. And in disgrace, the Swordmaster commits seppuku. Yikes. We then finish off another wave of soldiers, led by more cavalry officers, until finally escaping the cave. Good, because I was getting really claustrophobic in there. Back outside, we knife the 2 soldiers before switching to a rocket launcher. We gotta demonstrate every weapon after all. As we approach a bamboo forest, some soldiers jump out of the trees and hurl bamboo spears at us. You can either march slowly or just sprint through and dodge them. Me, I prefer to shoot them before they get a chance to jump out. Ooh, there's a panda. As we reach the end of the level, the screen flashes with a warning, signaling the impending boss fight. We make sure we're fully stocked before finally jumping in to confront the Sling Raider, the very first boss of the game. Not gonna lie, it looks a little silly, kinda like something a little kid would build. But don't let that fool you. Those spikes in the front are deadly and will knock you down upon impact. Same thing with those rocks hurled from the catapult. And there's also a machine gunner on top, who shoots every time you jump into its line of fire. Now, we could just individually fire off our weapons and slowly grind through. But, remember what I said about the mouse scroller earlier? Well, there's a way to cheese this game using it. While you hold down the left click of your mouse, scroll the mouse as quickly as possible. That will effectively rapid fire all of your weapons almost simultaneously, which basically cuts through the boss's HP like a hot knife through butter. And trust me, this will be very helpful in the later levels. So you're welcome. With mission 1 complete, we finally get to unlock some new weapons, as well as greeted by Phoenix and his kick-ass smile. For mission 2, we shall choose the Catcher, which is my favorite submachine gun, as well as the Poncho shotgun, as it makes quick work for multiple enemies in close range. And we shall continue using the same grenade and rocket launchers. Get out of my way, sucker. Showtime. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to scare you. Anyways, we take out the Catcher and take the fight to what I assume to be the city of Shanghai. What I especially love about the Catcher is its impressive fire rate, which quickly mows down the lower level enemies. Suddenly, a sniper scope appears, which only means one thing: take out that cowardly sniper. Unfortunately, we're greeted by an assassin who throws shurikens and fires a pistol. Still, the Catcher makes quick work of him before we finally take out the sniper after collapsing an entire building. 2 more assassins appear, as well as another damn sniper scope. Still, rinse and repeat. We then run into this very lovey-dovey couple having a first date, which we unfortunately ruined because, you know, we're in a war zone. Interestingly, they're running in opposite directions. Well, there's probably not going to be a second date after that. With the assassins not being enough, 2 swordmasters arrived to finish what they couldn't, but once again, they brought swords to a gunfight. After taking out the sniper, we're greeted with an armored car, which fires a machine gun instead of a cannon like the tank. Frankly, it's just a worse version of the tank, so I don't see the point of this enemy. Having enough fun with the Catcher, we switch to the Poncho, as we're about to enter a warehouse. Inside, there are tall stacks of boxes, which must be destroyed to advance through. And of course, there's another sleeping soldier on duty. But fun fact, you can actually wake them up if you step on their head. After playing more Tetris with the boxes, we walk upstairs, now facing stacks of barrels. And since the barrels are explosive, they can set off a chain reaction, thus clearing the whole space. We then encounter more waves, as well as greeted by another new enemy, the machine gunner. Well, sort of, since we already saw him on top of the Sling Raider in the previous mission. Anyways, we'll just call him Rambo. It sounds cooler. Entering the next floor, we quickly dispose the idle soldiers with a poncho and enter the next room, where a buff general readies to go Rocky Balboa on our ass. Therefore, we'll call this guy Rocky. And unlike the Swordmaster, Rocky has much higher HP and his attacks instantly knock you down. Still, the grenade launcher makes quick work as always. Now, surely there won't be any more of them, right? Oh, you've gotta be kidding me. Ah, damn it. TKO! And now to go back down. Whee! Now switching to a rocket launcher, we destroy the wooden barrier under the boxes and take the fight underground. Upon arrival, our path is blocked by this gigantic boulder, which we must shoot to make it roll off, kinda like that one scene from Indiana Jones. As the boulder lands on a row of spikes, we must hop on the boulder and do the same to ride it across to the other side. In other words, go Chris Redfield on that boulder. Next, we counter a flock of drones, whose crash destroys the wooden floors and expose the spikes, so not a lot of room to move around. Next, we move another boulder to make a ramp, though you can't skip that part if you just want to go through the lower level. But me, I prefer the high ground. After clearing the tunnels of those traitorous rats, a transport plane appears to drop off more waves of soldiers, as well as another Rocky. Now, I know some of you will try to take down that transport plane, so I'm here to tell you, don't even bother. I've tried it multiple times before and it's virtually invincible, and you're just gonna end up wasting your ammo. So again, don't even bother with it and just move on. Next, we come across an acid pool, and as you can see on the sign, no swimming. As a former lifeguard, I swear to God, people need to take these warnings more seriously. After killing the sniper, we need to hop on that floating barrel ourselves. So just like the rolling boulder, we shoot the surrounding acid to swim it back to us. And be very careful when hopping on the barrel. I can't even tell you how many times I screwed up this part when I was younger. After reaching the other side, we encounter a minefield, as indicative of the big red sign. Therefore, we take out the default pistol and shoot the ground as we march forward, using it as a minesweeper of some sorts. Also, before we move on, can I just say how awesome the game's soundtrack is? In fact, this piano disco soundtrack from this stage is my favorite. We then make it back to the surface, face more cavalry officers, and replenish our ammo, before hopping on our own horse and go on a ride-along. We soon find ourselves in a high-speed chase, as a bunch of Rambos riding jeeps appear front and back. Finally, we approach the end, as the red warning sign flashes again. The boss for this mission is called Kung Fu Warrior. I'm not sure if that's a misspelling or this.
The Kung Fu master so mean and tough. I'm so bad I scare myself.
Yeah, I have no idea what the hell that was about. Anyways, let's find out. Wait, is that Ryu from Street Fighter? Forget Kung Fu, I'm just gonna call him Ryu from now on. Soon, 2 Swordmasters and 2 Rockies arrive to assist Ryu, but he ain't having it. This battle is between the 2 of us. Yeah, he's basically Ryu. He even uses the same moves from Street Fighter. From the spinning kick to the uppercut, you can't deny it. Alright, that's enough horsing around. Let's get to business for real. Oh, you'll pay for that, buddy. Once you get his HP below 50%, Ryu turns beet red, becoming real pissed off and drastically increasing his attack speed. Which in that case, I'm gonna finish it off with cheesing again. Upon defeat, just like the Swordmaster, Ryu commits seppuku, preferring to die in his own hands than live in shame. And of course, we unlock some new weapons, including what appears to be an AK-47, as well as the Maisto rocket launcher. This will come in real handy in the next mission. For mission 3, we'll keep using the catcher and the grenade launcher, but replace the poncho with the AK and the rocket launcher with the Maisto. Once again, trust me, we're gonna need the extra firepower. As we parachute down, we land in what appears to be Southeast Asia. My guess is it's somewhere in Cambodia, but I could be wrong. And since we're in the jungle, we're already greeted with Mother Nature's deadliest, a damn crocodile. And don't let it bite ya. After disposing the killer crocs, we encounter swarms of bugs ready to sting you to death. Fortunately, this wooden platform is just high enough to avoid their attacks. So we spray the bugs with some bullets, who somehow drop an ammo crate. But hey, I ain't complaining. After shooting through more bugs and killer crocs, we come across this electric fence, which must be disabled before jumping across. And just like the acid pool, the jump must be timed exceptionally well, lest you want to fall to death. Alright, that's how you do it. Next, we finally encounter the Germans for the first time, who are chit-chatting amongst themselves.
Oh my god, es ist zu heiß hier.
Now once again, this game is taking some creative liberties, as there were no German troops in Southeast Asia. But again, if you really care about historical accuracy, go watch a documentary instead. And just like the Japanese soldiers, these guys are some pretty easy targets. As we enter a wooden house, we put down more Germans before switching to the AK. And just like the catcher, the AK makes pretty easy work of those buggers, but with a bigger punch. Also, beware of these carnivorous plants in the ground. They work like traps, and once you step on them, they suck the life out of you until you escape. So hop over them like a hurdle. Soon, another bomber plane, as well as more buggers appear. But there's still no match for the AK. As we enter another wooden house, we're greeted with elite German soldiers, who have slightly higher health and more aggressive attacks. Some of them will even charge forward and knock you down with their rifles, so watch out and keep your distance. Back outside, the ground view is blocked by the dense weed. This is tricky as it hides the carnivorous plants. You can either move slowly by checking through the creeks, or if you're like me, you can just take your chances and skip across. Besides, those killer crocs are more of a pressing threat than those plants, so you can't exactly stay idle. Entering another wooden house, we encounter rocket Germans, who shoot homing rockets, though they're relatively easy to dodge. Upon exit, we fall down into the water, where a crocodile is already waiting for us. Please, don't ever try this in real life. We then go through these underwater fences, which you can either jump over or destroy if you want some items like food or ammo. After fighting through more elite Germans and killer crocs, we make it back on land and fight an elephant, who's ready to give us a ride. The elephant then marches on, stomping through those poor German soldiers, while I sit back and just watch. That is, until rocket Germans begin parachuting down, forcing me to gun them down as well. After thanking the elephant for the ride, we enter some underground tomb, where we encounter more elite Germans patrolling, as well as led by an officer, who kinda looks like a certain someone. Unfortunately, I can't say the guy's real name because YouTube. So we'll just call him Mustache Man. Yeah. Regardless, we switch to the Maisto, which easily cuts through them like a hot knife. We then jump up these wooden platforms, which once again have to be timed very well, because if you miss, it's instant death by fall. So it's time to put your ninja and parkour skills to use. Yeah. And the higher you get, the smaller these platforms become. Once you do make it to the top, you're then faced with an array of lasers, which you must also time correctly and sprint across. Do not stop for anything and just keep running. And rinse and repeat. Once we make it through the laser array, we're met with more platforms with barrels. You could destroy a couple barrels for food and ammo, or just dive down if you don't need anything. We then arrive at 3 tomb entrances, which can only be opened by shooting the red button on the wall. Behind each door are sections of enemies that must be cleared. The third door has a time limit, as it activates a moving spike wall. And it almost got me, as my catcher ran out of ammo mid-progress. Yeah, that was a close call. We then encounter a cannon that shoots explosive rolling balls, not too different from the Donkey Kong games. You could try to shoot through every ball and destroy the cannon, or, if you're like me, just run through and skip them altogether. Next, we go through more red buttons and platform jumping, where we shoot the red buttons to extend the ramp from the wall. And once again, I had a close call at the very top, only to be saved by an off-screen wooden platform. After making it to the top, another armored car appears, which the Maisto makes quick work of. Finally back outside, we face more and more waves as German soldiers and armored cars, until reaching another mini-boss. Unfortunately, we're not fully stocked on ammo, with the catcher being completely dry. Well, we'll have to make do. On the wooden ramp, we're greeted with a massive bomber aircraft, who begins spraying machine gun fire, which is relatively easy to dodge. However, as it takes more and more damage, its attacks intensify by also shooting rockets, until it pops out a massive cannon at its last moments. Well, it's cheesing time. We then land on a moving train, with more Germans airdropping on us, before finally facing the real boss of this mission. Fortunately, these Germans also drop food and ammo, allowing us to finally recover some health and ammo before the real fight begins. How very nice of him. Vielen Dank, meine Herren. Finally, the boss appears, which happens to be, wait, Mr. Krabs? What happened to you? Even though the boss is called the Crabocalypse, we're just gonna call him Mr. Krabs, who somehow turned into a massive robotic crab, with a massive machine gun on its mouth and cannons on the top. And of course, who could ignore its massive claws, which will instantly knock you down? But of course, you know the drill. Cheesing time. And just like the bomber plane, as Mr. Krabs takes more damage, his attacks grow more desperate, and he fires off a barrage from his back cannons. Still, just like the Sling Raider and Ryu, Mr. Krabs is no match for Phoenix. But damn, I feel really bad for putting him down. Sorry, SpongeBob and Squidward.
Oh, poor Mr. Krabs, gone forever out of our lives. Why couldn't it have been me?
Yes, why couldn't it have been you?
For Mission 4, our loadout will be the Desert Rat Pistol, the AK-47, the Explosive Crossbow, and of course, the Maisto. I usually don't choose an unlimited sidearm weapon since I'm already stuck with the default pistol. However, The Desert Rat is no ordinary sidearm, as it actually packs a huge punch, and the unlimited ammo will come very handy later on. You will see. As our boat arrives in the dock, we find ourselves in what appears to be some Pacific island. With our weapons loadout ready, we start off with the Desert Rat, which, let's be honest, it's basically the Deagle. And just like the Deagle, the Desert Rat one-shots the Japanese soldiers, showing just how OP it is as a sidearm. After shooting through some barrels, we encounter Rambo again, which the Desert Rat also makes quick work of. Honestly, I could win this whole mission with just this thing if I really tried. Even the Germans are no match. After reaching the very top, we switch to the AK and enter the wooden house. What the? Ryu? Wait a second, I thought we killed you! Well, I guess Ryu comes back as a mini-boss. And after kicking his ass for the second time with a Maisto, he drops an ammo crate, making it all worth it. You fought well, Ryu. Back outside, we get to pick some fruit from the palm trees, such as melons and bokoyas, to replenish our health from that fight. And of course, another damn bomber plane. We then reach a wooden bridge, where waves of enemies flank us from left, right, and even above, as rocket Germans parachute down. Suddenly, a swordmaster cuts down the bridge, sending us falling down. After destroying another bomber plane, we get to choose between two pathways. The right path has a skull sign, while the left path has a teepee sign of some sort. For this mission, we'll choose the left path, as it shows new enemies, but we will explore the right path as well later on. Upon entering the left path, a bunch of tribesmen appear, who begin attacking us by throwing spears. They're a tier above both the Japanese and German soldiers, so we'll be switching to the explosive crossbow to pack a heavier punch. In fact, we can already see here what happened to our usual enemies.
Ah, 助けてをください!
Ah, fine, just this once. Woo, food. Look at these scaredy cats. Oh god, another one?
Ah, bitte, hilf mir bitte, ich will nicht sterben! Ah!
Oh, gottverdammte Scheiße!
Danke!
Ja, bitteschön. After a brief little truce with the Axis, more tribesmen appear, this time shooting blow darts. Finally, we meet the chief of the tribe, who taunts us and even throws his mask as an explosive. Still, even the chief is no match for us, and we finally escape this area. Get us the hell out of here. Next, we hop on this heavy truck, and upon driving forward, a giant flying mech appears and fires a barrage. It then switches to melee mode and charges forward, which we must also time our jumps exceptionally well. Oof! Damn it. Having had enough, we switch to the Maisto to speed up the job. The flying mech likewise begins firing missiles as well, but it's still no match. As we hop off the truck, we arrive to find two more Rockies supported by soldiers, who are once again TKO'd. Upon entering the building, we're once again greeted by new enemies, red Japanese soldiers and green German soldiers. Although their attacks are the same as their regular counterparts, their health is exponentially higher, thus forcing us to use the Maisto again. In fact, the green German soldiers can even tank 2 shots from it. From the roof, we hop on the helicopter, where we encounter more waves of rocket Germans parachuting down. Upon landing, we enter another building and encounter more German soldiers before choosing the route below. More green German soldiers and a flock of drones appear, as well as a super heavy tank, which shoots triple cannon fire. Once again, we take out the Maisto. Told you this thing would be necessary. But damn, we're kinda low on ammo. After fighting through more waves of Japanese soldiers, we finally replenish some much needed ammo and health before eventually reaching the checkpoint, only to then encounter another Rocky and Swordmaster. Finally, we make it outside, finding these massive rocket artillery vehicles. Suddenly, a squadron of fighter jets appear, all firing missiles at us, though we do manage to shoot down a couple. And another squadron. Finally, we encounter the mission's mini-boss, the Doom Tracks, which is basically a land battleship cracked up with all sorts of heavy weapons. But we have no time to waste, so we're gonna cheese it again. As we approach the end of the mission, we replenish our ammo and health almost to full, but it's negligible, so not a huge deal breaker. Finally, upon arrival, we're greeted with a massive rocket with a samurai head, as well as all the bad guys we encountered so far, who prepare for a last stand. As the rocket lifts off, everyone hops on their own stages, while Ryu just flies off with his tornado kick. Okay. Fortunately, an allied chopper drops a hoverpad for us, which we hop on and lift off to face the rocket. And it's imperative that we are fully stocked up on our ammo and health, as there is no going back once you commit. So let's do this! In the first stage, the red Japanese soldiers operate a missile battery, which we must time our jumps right to dodge them. So, not like this. And it's ideal to take out the red Japanese soldiers first so we can eliminate their distracting fire. And once that's done, it's rinse and repeat. In the second stage, we encounter a massive laser gun, which we must take out immediately because they pack a really heavy punch. Therefore, cheese it! Afterwards, those remaining cluster weapons are easy pickings. In the third stage, we encounter more missile launchers that shoot both homing and artillery rain missiles. But these are relatively easy to avoid as long as you can find the gaps. Unfortunately, once that's taken care of, these glowy red balls appear to shoot laser bolts at you, and they are fast and hard to aim. This is also the point when ammo begins to run low, which is tricky because we really need some at the very end. Once we reach the samurai head, it fires off another beam of energy, which damages our hover pad, forcing us to bail and hop on the rocket. Now, it's just ahead of the snake, the warlord samurai. Although we're low on health, we do have some crossbow ammo left, which will do substantial damage. And then, we fire off the remainder of the AK, before finally switching to the Desert Rat, which will carry us to the end. At this point, it's just tediously grinding through while dodging the cannon fire. We finally defeat the Warlord Samurai, causing Ryu and Rambo to bail in humiliation. We then parachute down to the destroyed wreckage of the rocket and drink the victory before the final scoreboard appears. And that finally wraps up the campaign of Commando 2. We did it. We defeated the Axis powers, be it in Europe or East Asia. Freedom is non-negotiable. Now, some of you may be wondering, wait a second, what do you mean the campaign is over? Aren't there 8 more missions to go? I thought there were 12 missions total. Well, yes, you are technically correct on that. But, as you can see, the remaining 8 missions are really just the first 4 missions on repeat, except on harder difficulties, with us having just beaten the easy difficulty. And as you progress through the normal and hard difficulties, the enemies become increasingly more powerful, with even the lower level enemies knocking you down from a single hit. However, you do also unlock more powerful weapons as you go to make up for it. Still, let me tell you, even the normal difficulty is so hard that to this day, I still can't get past Mission 8. Frankly, only the most dedicated tryhards can barely clinch through it all. However, I do still want to showcase some snippets of the later missions, as well as show off the incredible weapons you can use. Therefore, I'm gonna play the hard missions on God mode. Hey, call me a coward, I don't care. But frankly, I do not have the time and energy to spend an entire week grinding through the whole game, in hopes of maybe reaching the hard missions. Number 1, I have other videos in the making, and second, I have a life to live, so I hope you understand the situation. Anyways, let's get to it. In Mission 9, the Killer Crocs already appear from the very beginning. Fortunately, the Super Shotgun takes quick care of it, and the homing rocket launcher easily takes down any flying enemies, though the high fire rate does quickly deplete the ammo. In Mission 10, we use this weird drone launcher, which fires off little drones that run towards the direction you aim. Although it has great damage, it's not the most optimal as you're restricted to ground enemies only. Even against the assassins, it's a struggle since they constantly jump around. In Mission 11, we actually get to use another melee weapon other than the knife and the Commando sword. Although it can be fun to use, melee weapons aren't ideal in general, especially in the harder difficulties. The only reason we get to play around with it here is because of the immortality from God mode. But no matter, because this missile launcher, which is so big that it covers Phoenix's entire face, is arguably the best weapon in this whole game, as it rapidly fires off a barrage of missiles, which is enough to quickly take down most mini-bosses. And finally, in the very last mission, we unlock the Dragon's Breath, which fires off a massive round that makes the Maisto look like child's play. And of course, we get to finally see the alternative route on the right and switch to the mech suit, which fires off both machine gun and bazooka rounds. In this seemingly cursed jungle, we encounter typical Axis soldiers unlike the tribesmen, as well as a mist which actually damages us. With these OP weapons, the Samurai Warlord boss is a piece of cake, but only since we're playing on God mode, which activates infinite ammo and immortality. But if you're playing without cheats, even with these powerful weapons, it is gonna be one rough ride. In fact, many have tried, and once again, only a very few dedicated and committed individuals have managed to beat all 12 missions. Although I don't mind a challenge, there is a line between a challenge and artificially cracked up difficulties. And I'm not gonna waste an entire week grinding through just to unlock some virtual achievements. Still, if you think you got what it takes to beat all 12 missions of Commando 2 the honorable way, be my guest. Good luck to you, because you're really gonna need it. In many ways, Commando 2 serves as the face of early Flash games, not only topping the Miniclip site, but arguably the entire Flash community from the early decade. And despite being a Flash game, Commando 2 was actually better designed than many similar arcade games, with its clean graphics, fluid movement and aim, creative enemy types, an impressive arsenal of weapons that are incredibly fun to play around with, and of course, the kick-ass soundtrack. And again, this is free to play on any computer with internet access. Which is why, just like how the Raze games provided a cheaper alternative to the Halo games, Commando 2 served as a great alternative for those who wanted to play Metal Slug but couldn't afford a console or didn't have access to an arcade. And with its incredible acclaim, as well as the following sequel games, Commando 2 started to develop its own identity beyond just a Flash version of Metal Slug. On November 12, 2010, Macrojoy would release Commando Assault, a spin-off game where you still play as the same commando, use the same weapons, and fight the same Axis enemies. However, this time, you get to call in the Allies, who will assist you in destroying the enemy Axis base. Essentially, it is a tug-of-war match between the two armies. And then a year later, on November of 2011, an actual sequel in the form of Commando 3 would release as well, this time with a whole new story and significant redesign of the art style, especially the characters. Although you can't customize your weapon loadout before a mission, just like Commando 2, it's still pretty fun to play, especially with a new mechanic that allows you to fire dual weapons in both directions, which, I gotta say, would have been really helpful in Commando 2. In any case, I'd like to take this moment to sincerely thank Macrojoy for developing the Commando games and providing the much needed entertainment during my childhood, as well as allowing me to still enjoy gaming when I didn't have access to platforms like the original Xbox or PlayStation. It's just a shame that such a talented studio had to close down in 2018. Still, let's give him a much needed round of applause. Therefore, Commando 2 is the GOAT, being amongst the Flash Hall of Fame with the likes of Age of War, Bloons Tower Defense, The Last Stand series, and more. So just like many other Flash games that have been dutifully preserved in Blue Maxima's Flashpoint archives, I highly recommend you to give it a try and relive the golden years of Miniclip. What the hell? I thought we took care of him! Colonel Matrix, what the hell's going on?
Loremaster has taken over the Axis. We need to get the hell out of here.
What the f- Loremaster?
No time to explain. Get to the chopper!
Thank you to my patrons on Patreon for supporting this channel. My $5 patrons are Kapitan Sladek, Kidzap, Chocoburb, and Dravenraven. My $2 patrons are Komida the Prep Cook Demon. If you would like to appear at the end credits of my videos, as well as have early access and exclusive content on Patreon, feel free to hop on over to patreon.com/LTELawrence and give a pledge. Your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching. Until next time, this is T. Lawrence of the Arcadia, signing out.